Recording. Yeah, no, I got for everybody listening, this is Dominic Milton Trott, my buddy who is I mean, man, you were like first 20 episodes. You might have been first 10 episodes. Dominic's
I've done quite a few.
he's one of you're one of the original gangsters. You've been on here a lot. We haven't spoken in a while. And because I'm an idiot, I've had some scheduling difficulties with you, but yeah, no, I got a new microphone, got a new camera, got some lighting, and trying to make it seem a little less shitty, a little more professional.
It looks pretty good. You look
Thank you
pretty
very much.
clear picture there.
Thank you for now you can see my ugly face in high resolution. This is so
Don't know
everybody
about that.
so everybody listen, this is my buddy Dominic Milton Trott, the author of The Drug User's Bible. You took what was it 137
157
157 different drugs over the years and documented the come up, the high, the come down, different I mean physiological. I mean, it really is supposed to be an encyclopedia of sorts, what to take, what not to take, precautions to look out for. Just as an example, amphetamines, high sex drive, have a partner, but also beware of like the slippery slope of wanting to re-up. Other things like nutmeg notoriously is like, unless you want to go to hell and back, don't take it. But yeah. So which ones are we talking about today, Dominic?
Well, we've covered so much, but a few weeks ago I did a Ask Me Anything, and I've done one before. I did an Ask Me Anything on Reddit, and on the sort of general public, and it's a format which is fingers typing, and you can get asked questions on anything by the general public. And we went through those questions in previous episodes because it saves you thinking of them. It saves me thinking of them.
Yeah.
A few weeks ago, I did one on the drugs subreddit.
Yeah, subreddit.
And that's a community of drug-related people. And I thought it was quite interesting that the questions were slightly different between Joe Public and Joe Drug Using Public. So because I didn't have anything immediately I need to tell you, I thought maybe I could go through some of the questions that they asked and give replies in this podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay. What I've been doing, I've been locked down. Been locked down for a year.
Yeah.
So it's frustrating as hell because, as you know, I take these drugs when I'm traveling by and large, and I go all over the world to take them. So I've been sort of here thinking, well, fortunately, thank God I finished the book before this happened because it would have never been finished. But, I'm not young and I've got all these years of, if you like, to put it this way, drug taking ahead of me.
Yeah.
No. I've got all the years ahead of me with places I want to see and things I want to do. And that will include hunting down some botanicals and so on. And I can't do it. So it's been really increasingly annoying. But hopefully soon I'll get out of this country and off on my travels again.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I've been locked down too. It's
you're on the East Coast. You're in
Maryland. It's it's been locked down just as much as I've pretty much only been doing podcasts for the last year. I've just been doing podcasts every day. Okay.
Right. The first question, I'll just open this. The first question is what I always get asked this. What are your favourite drugs out of the 157? And wherever I speak to them, they all want to know that. But I've already answered that, so I'm not going to labour it, other than to say that it depends on what you want at the time. Generally speaking, I'd like psychedelics because, a few reasons. One, they don't make me feel bad the next day. Two, they're generally more benign and less toxic than most of the classes of drugs. And so you get more out of them in terms of different perspectives and learning and about yourself, about nature, anything that you want to cast your mind over, you get a different perspective of. So psychedelics generally. Now, people don't really want that. they want you to say a drug like alcohol or cannabis or
Yeah.
so I have a sort of backup sort of reply that comes in from, well, in a situation where I want to feel good, my favorite drug would be amphetamine, which is speed, but I don't have it because the payback with a drug like amphetamine is quite severe in terms of the aftermath. I feel depressed for a few days, takes a lot out of you, and I'm too old for that sort of payback. So favorite drug, if I had access to it, which I don't obviously here because I've got this on the travels, would be something called Kava Kava. Would be a nice one.
Kava Kava, isn't that an anxiolytic?
It's like alcohol. It is an anxiolytic, and it's a bit of inebriation, and it's legal in the United States, so you can have it with non-legal.
I think I took it in college. I think I remember
Yeah,
taking it in college.
it's a drink.
I would take it during. Well, I remember I got it as a powder. I was like a
Yeah,
capsule.
it's a powder, and you
Yeah.
make a drink from it.
I would get them in these capsules, and I think I tried them out during like finals week or something because I was like, I need something to make me go to sleep because I was so anxious about all my finals.
Oh, why? I mean, it's not really for that. What a
No,
waste of a good
it
drug.
didn't really help. No, it didn't really help, but it was fun. But it was fun.
Yeah, I found it was like a clean alcohol. Alcohol. It's nice when you're starting to when it's starting to take effect.
Yeah.
But then it goes fuzzy and it's not quite so pleasant and it's horrible after.
Yeah.
Kava Kava has the positives in that you feel inebriated and intoxicated, but it's not getting fuzzy and it's not getting confusing and you're not becoming a jerk and you're not having a hangover in the next day.
Yeah.
At least I didn't. And so for me, it's a nice sort of quasi-sedating, inebriating, drink it in pints if you want to, social type of psychoactive. So I say that, and the other one I say normally is ephenidine, which is it's a dissociative like ketamine, only you eat it, it's oral, and it lasts longer than ketamine. And it's really quite a strange, weird experience, but it's really interesting, and you can absorb yourself into various topics, a bit like a psychedelic, but not really. Okay. So those are the things, and lo and behold, I'll go online. That's the first question I'm asked. What are your favourite drugs? So I have to labour all these. Well, if, but no, psychedelics, but da 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 da. So it's when I'm doing something like this online and typing, this is how I get behind the questions. Because the first question is like a monolith of these explanations. But by the time I finish that, there's 100 questions typed up, and it's.
But I would say it's good that there's a monolithic answer because it's often what we spoke about in some of the earliest episodes of this podcast was people look for a soundbite. What happens if drugs are legal? Well, we're going to have addictions and there's going to be problems. There you go. Here's Tom with the weather. Versus like you have to break it down and be like, well, what are you looking for? What there is more than just alcohol good, everything else bad. It's like, well, no, there are these. What are you doing? Do you like kava kava? Do you want to stay at home? Do you want, are you this person? Do you enjoy an amphetamine? Do you enjoy a mild opiate? Do you enjoy a psychedelic? It's like, I think it's indicative. I think it's good that there's that sort of monolithic answer in your words.
It's a complicated question, really, even though it seems simple, because it does depend on
that's the thing
where you are and what you wanted.
That's the thing is you can't answer. It'd be like if someone said, how do we get world peace? No one's going to be able to answer that in anything less than 10 paragraphs. It's like some questions just beg that answer. Yeah. Okay.
Next one is, can I ask why you had what? Oh, I mentioned 1P LSD is one of my favorites. Somebody comes in, why 1P LSD and not LSD? Well, for the start, they're the same drug, really. 1P LSD was synthesized because LSD was illegal, is illegal, and 1p LSD is a new drug, so it's not illegal, and it's widely believed, and I think this is the case, that once you consume 1p LSD as opposed to LSD, it becomes LSD in the gut, and you have an LSD experience. And so my answer to that was the same experience really. But 1p, I cited 1p LSD simply because I had lots of it available legally at the time. You could just buy it, which was quite surreal really.
I took 1p LSD in 2016. Yeah, I just ordered it. It was mailed to my house.
Yeah, I mean it is. I mean, and nobody died from it. Nope. It was just a nice experience, quite rewarding as well. Well, that's whizzed down to the next one. Which drug has most positive effect on your life, and which drug had the most negative effect on your life? I got this in the other AMA as well, so I won't label it too much. Positive. The various psychedelics, I say various because I think a number of them have contributed. Now, I don't know whether it was you or it just developed when I was talking to you, because the sort of metaphor I used to explain one of the values of psychedelics was that psychedelics tend to give you a different perspective of life. It's a train.
Yeah.
And if you have a psychedelic, if you've lived your life on a train, it wasn't you who told me that.
Yeah, it was you and me. Yeah.
I think we developed it together, or you came up with it. If you're on a train, we did it together actually.
Yeah. It was we co-authored it. Yeah,
we co-authored this. This is our metaphor.
This is
Tommy,
our
publication.
Tommy Dominic et al. 2020. Yeah, this is our publication.
We better tell them what it is now.
Yeah, it was right.
Because psychedelics give you a different perspective. Now, if you live your life on a train and you're living your life looking through a train window and waving and looking what's going past, and then for the first time ever, say you're mid-20s, you're allowed to get off the train, stand on the platform, look at the train and get back on the train. You're never going to see the train again in the same way.
Yes.
And you're never going to see your existence on the train in the same way.
Yeah.
Because you've had that different out of your normal reality experience. And I'm convinced that much of this enhanced consciousness, or what you want to call it, with people who've had psychedelics versus those who haven't, isn't anything to do with the nature of it is, but not necessarily just to do with the nature of the experience. It's the fact that you have stepped out of normal reality and got back in again, that you don't see things subconsciously or even consciously the same way again. It's not necessarily the individual effect of the drug, because I think LSD does this, DMT does this, lots of psychedelics do this. So it's not an individual property of the psychedelic, other than the property that enables you to be in a different sensory 3D construct, if you like, to the one you normally experience.
The train is
Train's a great metaphor.
Yeah, if you're on the train,
stop using that now.
If you're on the train your whole life, you won't know you're on a train. And you can do other drugs on the train. You can do alcohol. You can smoke weed. And what those are like going to different cars on the train. Those are like going to different seats. Maybe some windows are thicker, some are thinner, some are wavy. Maybe there's different air conditioning or heating or music. But you're still on the train. Yeah, psychedelics are. It's like there's a hot air balloon tied to the train, and you get to like climb up the hot air balloon, and you look down and you see the train, and you're like, oh, I was on. And you can look around at the landscape, take a big enough psychedelic, you can see other trains, right? And you're like, oh shit, like this is. And you go back down, you sober up, you can never forget that, and it just changes you forever.
It does, and it did with me, and I think it does with most people. People who say it doesn't must not have had, a proper psychedelic experience of it, because I don't understand how you change your sensory inputs so dramatically, and you've been there and you get back, how you can actually not be slightly changed at least. And I think that's the tray metaphor is an excellent
Yeah.
one for describing the effect of an effect of psychedelic drugs. Negative effects on my life. I said alcohol is the one that's had most negative effects. And I think because when I've had a really bad experience with the drug, and as you know from previous podcasts, I've had quite a few horrific traumas where things have gone wrong. It's been a one-off, put it behind me, that was horrible, you know. Whereas alcohol is, you know, I've frequently been normal, if you like, where I've got drunk on a Friday night and I've suffered the consequences of losing at least some of the next day, sometimes all of the next day. So there's a day of my life gone. I've acted like a jerk, which, you know, when I've been really drunk, as most people tend to, and I've had sort of situations think, oh God, did I have to say that?
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, I'd say alcohol has probably had the most negative effect on my life. In addition to the fact I know people, or I'd have known people who are alcoholics, and watching people destroy themselves isn't a bundle of laughs, really. So I said alcohol for that.
Yeah.
What drugs do you constantly use until this day, and why? Now, I've had 157 drugs over 10 years, and people take from that the assumption that this guy must be on drugs all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Like some hunter
I
S
think we
compound.
discussed this before, and it's just not true.
Yeah.
You know, this is, and that doesn't necessarily say much about me. It says something about the drugs, about the truth about drugs. Just because you've had certain drugs doesn't mean you're going to be addicted to them. I mean, alcohol is one of the most addictive drugs known to mankind.
Yeah.
You know, so you could argue, well, why aren't you an alcoholic? Why are you drinking alcohol every day? Well, unfortunately, a lot of people do, but a lot of people don't. Most people don't. You know, there's this expectation that I'm a compulsive drug user or an addict, or I'm always going to be high or stoned or tripping or whatever. And that's not true. So I'm basically going to say I don't take any on a daily basis. However, should the opportunity arise, I'm partial to LSD. I like exploring different strains of cannabis. I limit myself on stimulants because of the aftermath. So they're every blue moon, and that's probably about it. So yeah, if should I come across anything novel that I haven't tried before, I'm likely to try that. Now that's obviously not very likely these days, because after 157 drugs, there aren't that many drugs that I can come across that I haven't already had. There are, or I'm liable to come across that I haven't already had. Although if I do or did, I think I'll probably do the experience because that's what I do. Does that sound bad?
No.
Okay. They're asking about kratom again. Why do I like kratom? And kratom. And kratom is a very common botanical plant, and it's like a sort of, it can be energizing, but it's normally sedating, and it's a bit like an opioid, but it's not an opioid. But some people use it to deal with heroin cravings when they're tapering off opioids. Now the problem is with kratom is that the taste is absolutely revolting.
Horrible. It's horrible.
And it's such a powdery thing that you can't get it out of your mouth.
It's terrible.
It's absolutely foul, and it's a nice experience, really, if you have the right dose. But getting past that taste, you know, it sounds like, oh, what's wrong with you, man? You can, you know, no, it's really, really, really horrible, and it really sticks in you. And the smell of it, once you've had it a couple of times, you associate that with the taste, and that makes you think, oh God, no.
Yeah. Like
So
valerian.
there's a long discussion on kratom and the taste there. But yeah, what was your Datura experience like? Have we covered Datura before? I can't remember.
I don't recall. The name sounds familiar, but I don't think I've heard you
It's
talk in depth.
it's a plant. It's a delirium, like nutmeg, and you tend to have the seeds. And the problem, and it's used by shaman sometimes. But the problem is it's highly toxic and it kills people.
Mm-hmm.
That's one problem. The second problem is it's, unless you really know what you're doing, it's very, very difficult to establish the dose and measure the dose, because one seed can be 6 times more stronger than the next seed.
Oh, Jesus.
Or this seed can be a sixth as strong as that seed. So you've got this thing with the seeds where, is this a really juicy, powerful seed, or is this a feeble seed? And you're supposed to be having this dose of it, which is only a few seeds, unless you really want to absolutely give yourself a horrible death. And he's asking about the experience. So I knew all this, obviously, because I'm writing the book, so I research everything, practice what I preach, I research everything that I'm going to experience, and I document it in the book. So I knew all this about the seeds, and what I decided to do was, because I'd already experienced delirium with nutmeg, and had this horrific traumatic ride. And I'm not going to let that happen again. I'm going to just have one seed. And I'm going to pick the juiciest looking seed.
Mm-hmm.
So I picked this juicy seed out of the pack. And thought, this probably won't even take me to the threshold. It's quite a low dose, but at least it will enable me to write about this on a low level. So I had this seed, and I didn't really expect anything, but I started feeling a bit weird. Things looked a bit strange, and I felt a bit sort of, couldn't really put my finger on it. And after a few hours, I decided, well, I'm going to go for a swim, and it's getting dark. There's a swimming pool not too far from here. And this is legal, by the way. This is why I had it in the house, just as planned. I had this seed, and I walked to the pool, and I suddenly realised that all my sensory organs were feeding me information, not necessarily distorted, smell, touch, taste, sight, sound,
Mm-hmm.
but they were sort of coming in distinct from each other. So I'd see something, and then I'd hear the same thing. I don't know, something, the wind blowing in a tree. I'd see the tree and I'd hear the branches sort of sway, and they come in sort of separately. And I'd sort of be aware that these are separate sensory inputs. Whereas normally, in your normal everyday real reality, everything's sort of merged. You don't even actually think of them like that.
Yeah, it is kind of
So
comes
mix
in
them all
as
together,
one.
and that's your experience.
Yeah.
Well, I found that I was very aware that these were different senses coming in, and that was pretty disconcerting.
That's weird. That's like the simulation is glitching, right?
Yeah.
That's like when you're watching a show and the audio and the video don't match up.
Yeah, it was a bit like that. That's a good.
The
Yeah,
Matrix is breaking down.
yeah, it was a bit like that, and I found myself. There was one of these shrubs, and I walked past it every day, and I sort of just spotted it. I thought, my God, that's amazing. So I got my camera, I took about 30 or 40 different pictures of this branch swaying in that to the breeze. So yeah, I wasn't quite normal. There was nothing sort of, I wasn't feeling high or happy, but I wasn't in this sort of sinister type of zone. But on one scene, I remember thinking, goodness, I didn't have to,
Yeah.
or more. And then at night, the dreams were really, really weird. And I had a headache in the morning. So I think my takeaway from that was, it's a really weird experience. If I'd have had more than one seed, I would have probably ended up like I was with nutmeg,
Yeah.
which I wouldn't ever want to wish on anyone. Uh, but I was able to sort of document, just how powerful this stuff is,
Yeah.
and that it isn't pleasant at all, and it's far too easy to kill yourself seriously and permanently injure yourself in some way, and people do a
Mhm.
lot. And that's one of the things on the forums that not many things really annoy me. I can sort of get above them quite easily, and I actually see people on forums, bragging about, I've had nutmeg, or I've had this detour and it was great. And I'm thinking, no, if you've had it, it wasn't great.
Mm.
And actually, basically encouraging kids or anyone who's reading that to believe that you've gone and you've grabbed all these things and had a wonderful time, and they can do the same thing. It's just so irresponsible. It doesn't even bear thinking about. That's one of the things that annoys me. I just want to go on there. I mean, there's a saying. I can't remember who said it. Never wrestle with pigs.
Yeah. You
You get dirty and the pigs
the pigs
enjoy
like
it.
it anyway.
Yeah, so I don't tend to go and argue, but I want to.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
well, no, I just hope if I engage, it might actually attract more attention to this guy who's being so irresponsible.
Yeah. Dominic, I have to go to the bathroom real quick. Tell them where they can find your book.
Okay, I'll talk about the book. The book is The Drug User's Bible. It's harm reduction. It's written solely with the intention of keeping people alive, because I noticed when I was researching for one of my earliest experiences, which is ayahuasca, that people were dying and were going missing off forums. And uh, from analysing the information that was coming back, it was quite clear that most people were actually making mistakes, making errors with dosage or onset times or combinations or whatever it was, due to a lack of information. So what I tried to do was actually write a book that provided the basic harm reduction, safety information for all these different drugs, as a start point for anyone who's committed and determined to take a particular psychoactive, that they actually have something that they're not sort of guessing completely on what to do, and it's trying to give them procedures and processes to go through to basically stay alive. So it took 10 years to write, a lot of traveling, and it came out at 530 pages or something like that. It's on Amazon. So that's what it is, and that's why I wrote it.
Um, I was gonna say with Datura, that kind of sounds like. I was gonna say it kind of sounds like like my first psychedelic experience, and that like you kind of catch yourself just doing something silly, like taking 40 pictures of a tree branch.
Yeah.
Right? You find yourself staring at something, and if someone's with you, they'd be like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And you're like, "Oh shit, I don't know." And you realize that you've been like staring at a pine cone for a half hour, and you're like, "Oh man, I just went down a rabbit hole. I was like talking to God." You're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, sorry."
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely what that can happen with psychedelics, but it's usually fun when that happens with a psychedelic.
Yeah, no, it's
you know,
great.
and you actually can explore things, but this wasn't. This was a bit more sort of, oh, there's something sinister going on around here. Am I okay?
Yeah,
It was that sort of edge that I never stepped into that because I only had the one seed.
yeah.
Next question. See, people really love hearing about me getting a bad time. What was your most unpleasant experience? I've already mentioned the two, nutmeg. The other one I've included here is some of the cannabinoids, 5-FAKB48 and AM2201. Cannabinoids, synthetic cannabinoids were created to try and mimic cannabis because cannabis was illegal here. And they were at first reasonably, not good, but relatively benign to what come later, which were terrible, really terrible drugs, really. In that, just give you a quick 30 seconds on what 5-FAKB48 did to me. I was suddenly one talk on this stuff, and I was lying on the bed in fetal position, praying for it to end soon. Terrified. Every thought I had had a sinister edge to it. I mean, because I had such experience, I knew it was going to end. And I remember thinking, if you're a kid who's never had this before, imagine how much worse it would be than it is for me now. Terrible. So that was a pretty bad experience, and the other cannabinoid there was as well. And they were quite difficult to document in the book because, to actually try and grasp with the feeling of such intense paranoia and put that into words isn't the easiest thing in the world to do. But the fear was palpable. It was there, and there was, nothing I could do about it other than wait for it to end, which thankfully it did. Pregabalin's another one. Pregabalin, gabapentin, its sister, is the 14th most prescribed medicine in the United States. And pregabalin's a sort of upgrade on it, which is sort of replacing it. And the problem was with that, it's a sort of sedative, and it works it's used to treat nervous seizures and things like that. But it's like a sedative recreationally, and I just had too much of it. It just went completely wrong, and I was ill. And the third one I mentioned is Mapacho, which I've told you about before. That's a sort of tobacco leaf, not the tobacco as we know it though. They had in Hanoi in Vietnam, and had one smoke of the talk on the bong from the local chaps, and smoking it everywhere. And that's why I was suckered into thinking I would be perfectly okay. While the locals are smoking it, they must have huge tolerance, because I was nearly passed out, and I felt like I'd just consumed something poisonous, and it was awful. So that was one of the most unpleasant experience. I think that comes down to, don't be rash and research what you're doing. I should have known that's what it was, because I'd had Mapacho before at home, because it was legal to import it from Brazil, which is what I did. And they have a sort of variant of it in Vietnam. I don't know why Vietnam and nowhere else, but they also have it anywhere else. And I thought, well, maybe it's the same thing, maybe it isn't. I'm going to go for it, and it was a big mistake, really. Even if you've got tons of experience and you've written a book on harm reduction, you can still do stupid things if you're not careful.
What do you think about the slow decriminalization of psilocybin in the United States?
Well, it should be decriminalised. I mean, if you're going to criminalise drugs based upon harm and safety, what the hell is alcohol doing legal? So you've got this other drug, psilocybin, which doesn't kill people. It has this not automatic tolerance that, like most psychedelics do, that if that was such a good time, I'll have another one tomorrow, you're going to find yourself having so much more that it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Very quickly, it's not going to work. And people do benefit from it. They do benefit from psychedelics, and it's a cure for all sorts of psychological and psychiatric conditions. It's just that it's sort of illegal, and thinking, when you've got a drug like that, which it's not the only one, but it's a major one, psilocybin, which psychiatrists are saying clearly that this has served so much pain and suffering, and help people and stop, help people not, prevent some people from committing suicide, etc., etc. You're sort of thinking, well, and you've still got that illegal, you don't think, well, if they could get away with it, they'd have morphine being illegal and not used for medical purposes, and what would you do then? Have operations in hospital without any anaesthetic? It's just the same sort of thing, isn't it? That's a physical sort of drug that makes you, knocks you out for pain relief for when you're undergoing a procedure. Well, here's the same on the sort of psychological, psychiatric side of the human condition, and you've got this major cure and tool illegal.
We're not
I
using.
mean, that's just barbaric. I mean, it's just
it's
you know. I don't think any drug should be illegal, but you know, that's another argument. But psilocybin, that's just ridiculous. You cannot justify that in any shape or form.
It's ridiculous. Apparently, in Washington D.C., it's decriminalized now. You can actually go and buy it and like cookies and stuff. So it's a step. It's
psilocybin cookie. That would be nice.
Yeah. So it's a step. I think that it's going to be like marijuana, right? Marijuana was first decriminalized in Colorado like forever ago, right? And it's the foot in the door, and then it spreads to other states. And
let me make a note of that, because you're just giving me an excuse to go to Washington.
Yeah, there you go.
Washington D.C.
Washington D.C. decriminalized psilocybin. You know, there's one thing I was thinking about though. It's pretty funny, right? Because the first decriminalized weed was in Colorado, and now, you know, 20 years later, it's legal in however many states. And then we saw decriminalized psilocybin in Colorado, I think like 2 years ago, and now it's decriminalized in DC. It's slowly, but it's kind of funny because all that fear mongering we grew up on, that marijuana is a gateway drug, it's kind of hilarious because it absolutely is, right? It starts to become legal, and next thing you know, psilocybin's legal, and then this is
not in the way they said that.
I know, but it's hilarious because you know all these people are just rolling in their graves. They're like, "I told you it was a gateway drug," and it's like just slowly blossoming, but it's blossoming in the most beautiful way. There's revenue, crime is down, taxes up. It's good.
Perhaps that's one of the paranoias they had about marijuana, cannabis, was the fact that
they knew
if people use cannabis, then they know the big lie, if you like, about alcohol.
Cannabis,
well, actually, cannabis isn't killing anyone, and it's far better for you
and then you try alcohol, and
it would then lead on to
the
drugs being legalized, and people would be questioning, well, alcohol's all right, and that's one of the worst drugs.
Well, the thing is, and then you start taking psychedelics, and you start getting off the train. And then the whole system starts to break down, which is what we saw in the 60s, right? Turn on, tune in.
Which is what we want, of course.
Yeah, it was what we want, but it's a big threat, right? We saw LSD. LSD was like COVID-19. It slipped out of a lab, and it slowly started to dissolve the world structure and turn on, tune in, drop out. Timothy Leary.
You have some fantastic metaphors.
Yeah, right? It starts seeping out in the 60s, and the CIA was like, fuck no, and they clamped it down. And the vaccine was the DEA, the War on Drugs, Schedule 1. They got rid of all the dirty hippies. Side effects of LSD are long hair and the Beatles. And they got rid of it all. And we've been vaccinated against free love for 50 years, but it's seeping back in. And kind of like a virus, it's mutated, right? Because now we have enantiomers, 1P LSD. Now we have 4-ACO DMT. It's just like a virus. It's like it's spreading again, but I don't think that they can stop it this time. I think it's coming.
It's going to, because the war on drugs is lost. It's not. They're not going to win it, and they're just going to create and perpetrate misery and death.
Yeah,
but they seem quite happy to do that, which is unfortunate.
COVID-19. It's LSD 20 or whatever the fuck it is.
That's a good one. That's a good metaphor. I'll try and remember that one and start.
Slips out of a lab and dissolves the world structure.
I'll try and attribute it to you when if I do remember it, because I don't like stealing people's metaphors.
Oh no, Dominic, any metaphor that we come up with on this podcast, I consider you and me to be co-authors, because it's a flow of information, right?
Yeah.
So we co-author everything on here.
Okay, that sounds good to me.
Okay,
this one asking about ceremonial use of cacao. So I come back with, I did once snort chocolate on the streets of Amsterdam. I was walking down a street in Amsterdam, and outside the shop there's this sort of tray with this finely powdered chocolate and a straw and a mirror, and for people to snort chocolate. And I was a bit stoned because I was in Amsterdam, and I decided, oh, I'm going to have that cacao. It might psychoactive, the sugar's psychoactive. So I thought, oh, this is a good idea. So I tried to snort this chocolate, and the results were probably quite predictable. I was sort of spluttering and coughing, and oh my God, what have I done to myself? And people said, but did you get high? And the answer is, I haven't got the slightest idea because I was too busy recovering from this terrible experience of trying to snort chocolate into my lungs. So I don't have a good answer to that one, other than that. Yes, I did that, and maybe it wasn't one of my best moments. What else? Who's next?
Dominic, like I told you in the email, I gotta wrap
Yeah,
this one up in like 2 minutes. Let's definitely schedule another one, and we can do. I won't be time restricted next time.
Okay,
but yeah, we'll dive into it next time, and
we'll carry on with these silly questions that people are asking. Well,
yeah, it's fun.
good
As always, Dom. I fucking love having you on. I have a lot of new subscribers, so hopefully they'll check out your work. But yeah, for everybody listening, go look back at like the first 50 episodes. Dominic was on here like 5 times. It was brilliant. But yeah, and everything we come up with, hey, co-authored it. All right. Train metaphor.
I love these metaphors.
Train metaphor, LSD, right?
LSD metaphor, COVID metaphor.
Yeah, LSD, right? Slipped out of what the fuck? Sandow's Laboratories, right? Sandow's in Switzerland or Sweden, and then COVID-19 just down the street from the Wuhan Bioresearch Lab.
Well, now there is a school of thought that believes it's Fort Detrick in the United States that the COVID virus came from. You've not heard that one?
What?
Now, I'm not spreading conspiracy.
I don't give a shit. I spread conspiracies every day.
This is just something that some people have been saying. You know, okay. Many people think whatever you want that Trump was starting a trade war with China.
Oh yeah, China.
Will I get banned from YouTube for saying that? I mean, no. Trump was starting a trade war with China,
and China
and they Fort Detrick in the United States. There's been various problems around the area of people getting conditions and illnesses, which they said was vaping. It was vaping, something to do with vaping, which is nonsense. And there's various things. Anyway, the World Games, the World Military Games, was held in Wuhan, in China, in about August, September of 19, and the United States had a team go over and compete in all the military in near Wuhan, including personnel from Fort Detrick.
Oh, motherfucker.
Biochemical research lab.
Yeah, I know what Fort Detrick is.
And United States, who you'd expect to, we'll pick these great athletes from across the military. You know, if they did that, you'd just assume they'd be pretty close to winning it. They'd win it, or they'd be up there in the top. Finished 86th or something ridiculous. So obviously the theory is that, well, they didn't send athletes. They sent people on a mission. The guys there were on a mission that wasn't to win the World Military Games. And the timing is impeccable. You know, you start to think, well, actually, this coincidence is a coincidence. When do 5 different coincidences become a fact?
When does it become an impossibility?
Yeah, that's right. So you've got the location, you've got the timing, you've got the desire, the motive, and you've got an absolute arsehole of a president there who's quite prepared to do anything.
The capability, motive.
That's right. So everything's in place.
Don't they define
for this to have been imported from Fort Detrick and created by the Americans in the middle of China? And because it's so unpredictable, who's to say that they didn't think it would only stay Chinese and not spread to the rest of the world?
Yeah, no, that's the first thing I thought. Like the first thing I thought when I saw that it came out of Wuhan, and then I found out there was a Wuhan biolab, I was like, okay, it came from there. But then the more you think about it, you're like, doesn't that make too much sense? It's just down the road from the Wuhan lab. Yeah. I'm like, I bet that was us. I bet we went there and released it.
Could have been, yeah. Well, the WHO have just been in and said it wasn't the lab. this didn't come from the lab. So that's today's news. So I don't know if you've
Yeah.
seen today's
Yeah,
news.
I
So
mean, it'd be like if China wanted to release a bioweapon, they would probably come release it right next to the CDC.
yeah, right. You're exactly
Make it
right.
look like the CDC did it. So, either way,
We
whoever did
don't
it
know, but
whoever
let's
did
not
it
make assumptions about
yeah,
the Chinese.
yeah, I don't know if it was the CCP, I don't know if it was the USA, I don't know if it was the Russia, I don't know if it was fucking Pakistan. I
Well,
don't
it wasn't me.
I don't think it was I'll go on record saying I don't think it was random. I don't know more than that. I don't claim to know who did it. I don't think it was random. I think
Who?
someone was behind. I don't think it was random. I don't know who's behind
Random.
it.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's random.
Well, it's a bit. I mean, again, you're looking at coincidences, and
Look, there's a lot of political gain, right? If you can shut down the world economy and institute draconian laws,
mm,
that's a 9/11 Patriot Act, TSA,
yeah,
Department of Homeland Security. These people salivate at tragedy, and
yeah. I mean, and some of them are quite ruthless and wouldn't
they're
hesitate to
all
do
they're
that.
psychopaths. They're all
Yes,
ruthless.
yes,
They're
yeah, yeah, yeah,
they're demons dressed in human skin suits. That's what
yeah,
these
yeah, yeah,
fuckers
yeah.
are. Which is why we need psilocybin for everyone. Stop with the bio warfare,
I think it was
everybody.
you who said all politicians should be forced to have a psychedelic before taking
Yeah,
office.
we said that as
And
well. I think
you,
you and I
it's a
said
very
that
persuasive argument.
you and I said that they should all
Yeah.
have to get all world leaders at the UN. They should lock the doors. They should pump in psychedelics through the air vents, and they should all be forced to partake in a big orgy so that they fuck while on psychedelics. There'll never be war again. If world leaders are locking lips while they're coming together on
Well,
psychedelics, we'll never have war again. We'll have world peace
I
tomorrow.
think if every one of them had a psychedelic, the world would be a better place. I think
Not
that would
only
probably
that, I
be
think it
the
has to
case.
be a psychedelic orgy. I think they have to
You
fuck.
want to know, do you
It
know?
has to be an orgy. We have to take
Don't
it
put
to
me
the
man where he doesn't want to go.
It has to no. They've got to take psychedelics, all consensual, but they have to take psychedelics and they have to fuck.
I can't unthink that now.
Well, you know what? I don't think we'd ever have a war again if they were all on MDMA, fucking.
Mm.
How are we ever going to send troops to die again? They're going to be in love with each other.
Well, next time maybe we can talk about chemsex, and I'll give
Okay.
you the rundown on that again.
Okay. All right. Dominic Milton
Okay.
Trot. Thank you so much, my friend, and I'll send
No
you the
problem.
link when it's up. Okay.
Okay, no problem. Thanks a
All
lot.
right.
Have a good
Yep.
have a good afternoon.